Thanks everybody for coming. This is Chris Miller. He's with Spike Studio. He does work with our district frequently too, helps us out. But he's also an expert in the social media area. So he's also got a book coming out on this topic in the spring. So soon he will be famous. But this is a talk that he's
Thank you for that.
famous in the world that
Okay,
they would know.
so
They don't read
made me
those
feel
books.
bad for a minute.
They don't read IBM books. Sorry. Only- But he also presented this talk at South by Southwest last year, so this is going to be a good presentation for all of us to hear, and hopefully we'll get some good tips. Chris Miller.
She bribed me with baked goods.
I did. Which
See?
I have not
Like
made.
the way that all went across. They
know.
Baked goods, right. She bribed me with baked goods.
I haven't made them
She
yet.
can do that well.
Yes.
I was gonna say, we didn't get
I
any
have not
before.
delivered.
I have no control over her lack of cookies here for you. None whatsoever. So, two parts to this. This one and then a separate secondary one. This one is more about your privacy, where the other one's about the tech side, right? The Facebook stuff and everything else. This one was made for South by Southwest, which is pretty much the largest social media conference there is, to give you an idea. So we had people of all levels that were in attendance, and Katie wanted to scare you all, so that's why she picked this one, pretty much. Yeah, it did. I went through a whole bunch of people that were in social media, and we walked through this session. Their end result was, oh, I need to change things, and I actually had people changing things live in the room. You don't have to do that. Just give you the idea. It's a version of this is recorded online on YouTube. So for friends, family, whatever, there's a link you can send them to, and they can watch it live. And then I know they're recording it for other people in the school itself, in the district. So we're going to talk about what the difference is for public, personal, and private in your social identity. It's a little bit different than what you think now. I presume all of you use Facebook, right, already? If you don't worry, it doesn't apply. Anything social you do, this is going to apply to. And we're not talking about content. So first part is what we consider public. Most of us at this point think public information is stuff that you've posted, be it on a forum or be it on, let's see, Twitter, Instagram is one, Google Plus is another one. Some stuff in Facebook can be public as well. All that information isn't your identity, it's content. So this session is about your identity, what's behind the scenes. That's what we're going to talk about. The next half we'll talk about content, right? But this one's about your identity. They're totally separate. When we start talking about identity, what we get into is another area that's called personal, meaning things. This is why I chose the words. This will make more sense to you. I said public is for everybody. When you want to know something more about a person you just meet, what's the first thing you ask them? Can I ask you that? And you say, can I ask you a personal question, right? So personal isn't private. It's not private information. That's too much, like how much is in your savings. That's private. But personal could be school. Personal could be how many kids do you have, right? Personal could be where do you live? We know you're in St. Louis, but where do you live? That's kind of personal to a lot of people. So we talk about that content as well. Facebook stores that type of content. Once again, it's what behind the scenes. And the other system there is Path. I presume none of you are on Path. Now, let me tell you the difference, just so you understand. Facebook, as most of you know, friends and family, could be students on there trying to track you down as people who work here. Path is a very selective network for 150 of your closest friends and family only. So it limits it. Give me the idea. That's considered personal information. Maybe family photos, trip pictures, things. That's still not your identity. What we're going to talk about the last part is what is your identity. So what's considered public identity? Does anybody want to guess what pieces are in there? Public identity. So we've already said content is different, right? Photos, opinions, those are content. Identity is what's behind the scenes. What email address you use on all those forums or to order stuff online, the city you live in. I use Google Voice. We'll talk about favorite team that you talk about or you post, and when your birthday is. So how many of you ever have other people in the office celebrate your birthday for you? Yeah, they bring cakes or bring baked goods. Technically, that's personal information, but we treat it as public because surprisingly, they know when your real birthday is, right? On all the social networks I'm on, I never use my real birthday. It's never been published on a social network. I have a fake birthday. Katie hates that because she can't say happy birthday because she knows my real birthday, but anybody that posted, I delete it. We're going to talk about why. So I actually kind of have two. It's
I
kind of
have
cool.
one now too.
She has a fake birthday now too. But the idea being is, this is information that people know about you or could find about you publicly because you've shared it. So now we're going to talk about where you start reaching into problems when they know this type of information. Personal information, right, which is people that you invite. This is people you invite into your life and give more information about. Well, we had the public address. They may have your public Google Voice, which is like a public phone number, or your public birthday. But you want to share a little more with them. So you give them a personal email address, or maybe the neighborhood you live in, where you went to school, you brought up, right? Or a personal cell. So here's the difference between them. When you start thinking about how we're going to break these down, because there's a whole other section we haven't talked about, which is private. Everything in green, and we use the 3 colors, everything in green is made for anyone in the world to be able to know. When you order from a catalog, when you give your phone number information for a frequent loyalty card, right? This is all part of your identity. You give your email address to them. Anything you give them information-wise, you should be considering public. You don't know who else sees it. You don't know where else it gets shared, right? You get those strange emails, spam, as you all know. That's that information being shared. So as we start sharing private addresses, so a lot of you probably have a Gmail address, yeah? Most of you, Gmail or Hotmail, one of the two. How many of you use that to do all your stuff? Banking, finance, share it, go out a list, do everything? Right, you're gonna hate yourself by the time we get done. Right. It's okay to raise your hands in this one. We don't make fun of everybody. I did it wrong to start, so you know. When I started building all this procedure and looking at it, I realized I did it wrong, which is why it turned into a session. Google Voice, I use that as an example. A public phone number, meaning a number that you could put out there publicly for people to reach you at, but I wouldn't give it to a vendor or anyone to call me on, right? I'd use a personal cell for friends and family, and I have a number on the outside world. So everything I promote publicly has a public phone number that Google provides you. It's free. They offer it as a service for free, because you can turn that off and restrict it, block it, and everything else. It'll never ring a phone that you own if you wanted to. But when I start talking to personal people, like, you know, it took Katie a while to figure it out, actually. Personal cell. She was always texting and calling Google Voice number. She never knew it was a public number everyone had. Then eventually I gave her the other number. She's like, what is this? I'm like, well, it's my personal cell, because you need it, you know, because we're friends outside of this. You need this more than that. And she said, oh, I'm special now. I didn't know I had your personal cell number.
That was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. But the point is, I had a
I
separate
always don't
number
think on that.
to separate, you know, that life. Last part is education. She brought it up originally. Where did you go to school? You can pretty much guess where that one's going. What's the one security question that every site asks you?
High school.
What's your high school mascot? Where'd you go to school? It's pretty much a US thing, but they use it as a security question. What was your favorite high school teacher? What was your high school mascot, right? All those questions are what? On credit cards, your finance, anything you do security-wise. So what we've created is a fake persona, meaning everything from personal through public that's out in the world, fake. I don't tell the real information to any of those sites that's social, or that is a vendor, or that's a frequent loyalty card, or any of that type of information. The reason being is you have a core set of things that I consider detrimental if something happened, right? Banking, finance, healthcare, things like that, credit cards, all that stuff in the finance world. If you lost your social media account or your loyalty card, who cares, right? We don't want that. What you don't want people doing is using that information to get into your private stuff. So let's talk about how we separate them, and then we're going to talk about what's private. So here's the first thing a lot of people do. We have both circles, public, and we have the personal side. And what we try to do is, you know, live inside each other, right? You share some things with everybody, but you keep some things to your close friends. So they may know you went to the ball game, but then you tell the people who you went with. It's a good example for a lot. They may know your kids play soccer, but somebody knows what team they play for. So think about those as public versus, you know, personal. Anything that you wouldn't tell a stranger on the street is public. Anything you'll tell one of your friends is personal. A lot of my friends still don't know all the true personal information. I consider that private. There's things you would never tell them, right? You would never share with your friends some of your credit card info, or you wouldn't share with them your banking, right? Some of you may, I don't know. You may have taken that leap, but I know I don't do it, personally. I don't do it. The idea, a lot of you also try to do then, is move this circle out a little bit and say, you know what, I'm just going to share a little bit of information about myself. The problem is that overlap still exists, and this is where we get in trouble. So we need to talk about is this circle. And the color's really light. Sorry, you're all right, the lights, I didn't know. But private, hidden, unavailable. Yeah, she's gonna turn it down a little bit. The red part. This is where you start sharing your true persona, who you truly are, your real information. Is that better? All right. So imagine the difference between, and we use the example, you register for a new credit card, what information do you have to give them?
Address, birthday.
Address, birthday,
Social Security.
social security number, right? A real birthday, right? Because they're going to verify it against credit records, right? Then you also have social security numbers.
Your previous addresses?
Previous addresses,
Jobs.
jobs,
Employers.
right, all this information that you wouldn't share with even sometimes close friends, okay? But what we start doing is bringing these parts into it. So all of a sudden, I'm applying for the credit card, or I'm giving the healthcare information, or I'm going for a new loan or finance, and I've just started sharing with them that also share my data, my email addresses that I also use with the public. So think about it in reverse. That means I'm giving the public the same account information that I use on my personal side. So this is where we start talking about splitting a fake persona and a real persona in a way, and providing that identity. Most of you probably have one email address that you use for everything. He'd be an extreme example because he does security and does it, IT for your district, where he has probably a few email addresses. So how many of you have just one? Just one email. You don't tell us what it is, but how many just have
One
one
for
email
home, one
address?
for work.
Forget work. You just have one email address you use, right? Be it Hotmail, Gmail, MSN, I don't care what it is. You have one, but you're using it for everything. So now think the opposite way. If one of these networks, like Dropbox, that just got, they didn't get directly hacked, but Dropbox, the file sharing site that a lot of kids use, some of you use as administrators, some teachers use it, all their passwords and account information got hacked, which means if you can log in as the person, I can now see your email address. Most of you probably use the same passwords across the set. So now I've gotten access to your email, which then gives me access to all the accounts I had to reset passwords and do what I need. By sharing this information across all these levels, you're opening yourself up. So what we do is we actually strip away all that public information, and this is where you have to do a little bit of work. And we add a private email address, right? We add a private phone number and a real birthday. So as I said before, going back, Facebook. It has a birthday on it. Does it need my birthday? No. Do they prompt you nonstop for your birthday? Yes. Right? You get the box on Facebook. Hey, where'd you go to school? Finish your profile. You're not complete. Give us information. And people willingly fill it out. I did this similar in another district out in St. Charles, Francis Howell actually, and started showing them the number of people that said they attended the schools and the communities and getting the idea of these are people that say they're part of your community, and that means you may be sharing too much public information with them, right? Or you're sharing too much private information with them. So you're putting real birthdays on social networks that don't require them. Most loyalty cards, well, guess what? They send me birthday wishes every year too. It's the wrong day, but they send them to me. It's a few, it's a month later. Who cares? It doesn't make a difference with that point. So what you need to do is start thinking about stripping out your identity that's on all these public networks that may be something private. So how do we start? You create a new email address that no one uses, no one knows. You'll be amazed at the amount of no mail that you get in these things, because the only people that'll have it is credit card, banking, finance, healthcare. That's where you start. You won't share this email address with friends. You won't share this email address with anybody but your significant other, of course, or whatever. That's the address you need to have in those back-end systems. The social stuff, let it stay social. If anyone ever got into your Gmail, you don't have to worry about them getting into your banking, healthcare, and finance or whatever. It could be a separate Gmail account. You could have two. Doesn't matter. You don't have to come up with a name that matches your name. It could be a bunch of letters. It doesn't matter. The idea is to get that public information out of your private areas. Okay? So what happens when we start intermingling? We're going to come back to that. So once again, people try to put them separate, but eventually you start losing track. Right? Did I use that there? Or what email address did I use there? Or, oh, it's the same. You start losing track of what was public, what was personal. That's why it's good to have a fake persona. Now, first time I talked to Katie about this, she thought I was nuts.
I really went home and cried. I was so scared.
Well, but she thought I was nuts in terms of why I said I had a fake persona. So what I've built is something I use on all the social sites. I have the birthday I use on all the social sites. I have the email account that I use on all the social sites. Right? I have the same fake security question answers for all the social sites. It's not real stuff. What I've done is separated the real stuff for banking, healthcare, finance, travel, things that would be detrimental to your life if they got hacked into. Imagine, has anyone been part of the recent reissue of credit cards from Target and Schnucks?
Multiple times.
Multiple times.
Got another one coming.
Right, got another card come, so do I,
Kmart.
last week from,
Kmart.
well, it wasn't Kmart, who was the one they just had? Was it Schnucks?
No, Schnucks was before Kmart.
So it was
Kmart was last
Kmart,
week.
who was it? Target.
Target was before Kmart.
I don't know. Well, I didn't get Kmart either way, because that's one I didn't have. The idea is now you've got another credit card coming. So think about the information that sits on the credit card side, right? Well, if they had been able to get into that data, what would that have done to you financially, credit-wise? Picture identity theft as a whole.
It actually has happened to me and my wife. We had the replacement card, so my wife took her card back to the bank, and they took the card physically from her. 6 months later, somebody out in Mills had that old credit card information. They bought $1,200 worth of gift cards, and we didn't have to pay for it because that card's no good.
Right.
But they took it.
Yeah, mine was just used, one of my cards I use for travel only, and I only use it for hotels, and I have a specific place I use it for travel for points, right? Was used to buy solar panels, and they were shipping them to an apartment building
Nice.
in Pennsylvania, and they bought them from a place in Vegas. It failed the original authorization because the credit card company said that doesn't look right. Why would he spend $10,000 in solar panels? But guess what they did anyway?
Approved it.
They approved, the local place approved it and then ran it, which I didn't have to pay for, and they issued a new card. But still, you would think that someone at that point would have said, yeah, there's compromisation. The best part is that data I know is secure. They stole a credit card number, but not the backend data. But if you look at the things that are going on now with the social networks, they're stealing all your data, which means your personal information that you've shared. If it matches your private information, right, that's where you're in trouble. So what I've built is a couple different ways. So when we start flipping these around and we get all confused, we put them back where they should be. One of the ways a lot of you try to do is, well, I'm just not going to put as much out there publicly, right? I'm going to make sure I just keep a bunch of friends and personal. Doesn't matter. Those systems still aren't secure. None of them are. Any of the networks you're on or information you share and loyalty systems, we all have them, right? They ask you for email addresses and stuff. We always do them. I think I have a digital keyring card that's on my phone. I use it all the places. Why? They ask for all that information, but it's all fake. All I need is the number to get free stuff from them, right? I don't need to give them real information. Then some of us try to shrink everything, or the best part is we don't share our real persona. So let's talk about what's in the real persona. All right. I consider these the 4 or 5 key areas. Only because if any of these vanished in my life, it would be detrimental. If you take my Twitter account, I don't really care, right? It's not going to hurt me. It'll suck, but it's not going to hurt. Same with Facebook or whatever. Right? You know, you don't even like half the people you're friends with on Facebook. Be honest. You block them, you hide them. Family, you only do it so you can see what they're doing, but you don't share your information with them. I know how all of you use Facebook. I do, because I do the same thing, right? But if any of these areas got compromised, so real persona and fake persona. First thing we do is make sure that we don't provide anything from our private information past these points. So real birthdays, real phone numbers, because think about some of the credit cards now. What can they do to authorize purchases for you? They can call your home number. I don't even share my home number. I don't think anybody even has. I don't even, I have the most cheapest plan you can have because it only takes inbound. I use it all the time when I'm doing online purchases, and they call it two-factor authentication. But when I go to make a purchase online, I use the virtual credit card numbers they give you. Some of you don't even have that on your card yet, I don't think. A couple of the cards offer it. What it means is I log into the website for the credit card, say create virtual number. It says, let me call you first to make sure it's you. It calls the number you have registered, your home number probably, and says, give us your code, the authorization code, and then it generates a fake number. It's only good one time for that purchase. It's brilliant. I never use my real credit card number on the web anymore. Right? You can't get around it in person, but I never use it there. So some credit cards now offer virtual numbers. The cool part is, once again, I'm not sharing any of my real persona with that outside world. Right? They don't have to know anything. I give them that email address if they have shipping questions, which isn't anything to do with my credit card. I give them a phone number, which is public, which has nothing to do with authenticating who I am at home for the credit card. So I don't give them anything that's considered private. Does that make sense? I never share that with them. That repeats itself. There we go. So these are the areas all of you guessed earlier that go out there on the banking, healthcare, finance. Real information. So now we need to build fake stuff for the other ones. So what do? Well, you can do what I did and just made a fake persona, memorized it, and I use it everywhere. I have a fake high school. I had a fake mascot, right? I do. Fake high school, fake mascot, fake birthday, fake favorite teacher, right? Fake pet name, right? These are all things that, so a lot of you, I don't think, has anybody actual teachers, or you guys all, I didn't know what part of the staffing it was. So picture the teachers.
All support staff and
All support
counselors.
staff.
Yay.
So picture the
Go for it.
teachers, and picture some of you talking to students, right? Or pictures on your desk, but picture the teachers most of all, because this happens to them, and this is one of the examples in the next half of the session we'll talk about, is they give out a lot of true private information, and they don't know it, which guess what happens? Allows people into those accounts. Jumping ahead, we could talk about like the teacher in Georgia, right? Whose students got into her phone, which she's one of the cases that we have on a later slide. But a lot of the teachers give out this information. I've seen it. You know, I saw it with my own kids' stuff at school. They talk about, oh, I had a pet named this. Oh, yeah, I went to that school, lived there. These are just general conversational things that people draw out naturally now. But if you think about it, those are the same questions I answer to get into my site. Those are the same questions I answer to reset my password, right? These are all things you have to do. What happens if you lose your password to Gmail? Does anybody know? You have to walk through a bunch of security questions that you've built over time. Those security questions are normally things that you may have accidentally shared. That's why I give them fake stuff for those. That way no one could either link the two together. If they get into that, get into my social stuff, but you're never going to see my email address or get into my private stuff.
I love it when I can't remember what answers I gave to the security question.
Well, that's always a good one, because then you got to convince them that you're the right person, right?
I am me.
Which is what I've done, is built a fake one that I use all the time. Yeah, it's just a memorization thing. It's only really 4 or 5 things, right? School, pet, first car, right? Who wouldn't want to make up their own first car they ever had when it wasn't true? Think about it. You know, we knew we drove Pintos and stuff like that, but you know, we're saying we drive Corvettes and Lamborghinis and Ferraris for our first car.
Yeah, you can't spell Lamborghini.
Well, that's true. Right.
Something shorter and easier to spell.
Something shorter. Chevy? No.
Right.
That's a little too easy for you. But the idea is that that information you've built up, and like you said, you've memorized and built into it. Like even the pet name, thing like that. I love doing those. Last part is all the way at the top, and this is something that I know you probably go with, and we can talk about ways to do it, is a password that you don't use on the social sites. I know it's hard. I know it's hard to do. But I have built my own methodology, and everyone will have your own. It doesn't have to be the same. But to give you an example, I have what I consider an entry password. Very bland, easy, high-end. I use it for new sites that are social because I test a lot of sites, right? That way, if something happens to this new site, well, then it's up here in this area, who cares? Then I have real strong password set, and we'll talk about tools, but a real strong password set around all the sites I use every day outside of private, right? So a good, complex, strong password. That's what I use. But I have a single password that is long, complex, you memorize, that's used for all the private stuff. That's totally separate. So right now, that means they don't have my information to reset the password. I don't share the password. I didn't share the data to reset the password. I've isolated this little bubble of red. Does that make sense? Now, there are tools that'll do it for you. LastPass, 1Password. They're basically apps that run on your iPad, your phone, your computer, everything. And you have a master unlock password, which can be huge and long, or a saying, or your favorite prose from a book, whatever it is. And then it configures for you these highly complex passwords for all your sites. And it does all the work for you. That's a tool. It's out there. It's awesome. Those are a few bucks, but they're out there for you if you can't remember your own, or if you can't create complex enough passwords. There's tools that do that for you. LastPass and 1Password are probably the 2 most popular. And 1Password is the #1 password, and then LastPass. But both of those can do a lot of the work for you.
How about LastPass is free?
There's a pro level that does more stuff. Yeah, the browser extension is free, I think, but the actual iPad,
Yeah, if you want to use it on mobile, it's $12 a year.
There you go. I mean, $1 a month for something that creates complex passwords, centrally stores, gives me a master unlock, and yeah, you can't beat stuff like that. So those are options. Yeah, the browser extension is free, I believe, but the mobile is the cost. But those give you the ability, to pick up your phone, launch the app to be able to log into stuff and know that it's sending a complex, obscure password. You can always change it, you can view it, but it gives you a tool to do it. So how do these fit together? When you have a fake persona, you've now built information for all these public sites, anywhere no real info is needed, at stores, at surveys, on the sites. There's no reason they need your real school you went to. If you're trying to connect with friends, you'll connect with friends. Right? They don't need your real birthday for any reason at any of those sites. They just don't. This is all aggregated data, and you know why. Marketing, right? It's all about marketing, which is fine. That's great. Give them stuff to market to you. I love getting that envelope at my fake birthday they send you in St. Louis in the mail that says what? Here's all these free birthday coupon things. Great, who cares? It's not my real birthday, but I get it anyway. Right? It's just delayed a little bit. It's a beautiful thing. It has nothing to do with my banking and finance, but I still get it. Surveys at stores. I've become very wary of this because of Kmart, because of Schnucks, because of Home Depot, because of all these ones that have had the actual, hacks into their system. If they had my real info, that could be a problem. But they don't need it for loyalty information. They don't need it at all. They just want to know what you buy and when you buy it, right? It's marketing. A lot of you probably do Panera's, right? Or go to, well, for us, St. Louis Bread Company. I had to say Panera's when I was down there. They don't know what Panera's, they didn't know what St. Louis Bread Company was. So you go to Panera's, you're just looking for free coffee, right? That's all you're doing, giving them the number for free coffee.
Teachers, you may dismiss students to buses.
There you go.
Quick question for you. Do you
Please.
avoid store credit cards and stick strictly
Yeah.
with the big ones, or?
I do it for another reason. So do what I avoid is I don't do store credit cards for a different reason, and that's because usually interest rates are crazy and points. Be honest with you, miles, points, whatever you collect on the
Right.
other ones, and centralize those. I also don't trust their security for most of
Right.
them. They may be backed by some bank somewhere, but I just don't trust it. Look, if you had a Target card, they got hacked, right? Millions of records were stolen. Schnucks, millions of records were stolen. Kmart, millions of records were stolen. All of that stuff is, could be detrimental. Luckily, that's all backed by the credit card company. But look at the sites like the stores that use your email address as well that store with it. Now, if you linked your credit cards and banking, healthcare to that email address, they could possibly have access that way. So that's why we separate all this. So we create a new email address. We possibly use a cell phone number or a Google Voice number that's out there. Other things you make up, favorite sports team, mother's maiden name. Yes, my mother has a fake maiden name. She doesn't know it, but she does. And when I called, it's funny, you mentioned this, I went overseas the last 2 weeks, called the bank to let them know that I needed to make sure I could use the ATM over there. It's cheaper to use the ATM than it is to get cash, currency exchange. Just a little tip. So I called and they asked me the maiden name and I gave them the wrong one. I used the one I use for public sites. And immediately I got transferred to security, which is fine. That's what I want them to do. But when they said it, she's like, this is the security department. We need to ask you a few more follow-up. I said, I gave the wrong maiden name. I said, I already know what I did. She's like, excuse me, and I explained to her, and she goes, well, can you, and I had to confirm like 8 extra things. But it was wonderful, because at that moment, I had misstepped. If I was someone trying to get in, it was a bad match, and the lady just, doop, transferred me. That was the next thing I knew, I was transferred to security. And then she went through a whole list and everything else, and it was good. But so, yeah, my mom has a fake maiden name. She just doesn't know it. I have an awesome first car. Right? I do. What else? Birthday, pet. Yeah. I never really liked gophers, but I got one. So the idea is that I built this fake persona. All right. Oh yeah, and I already talked about the password levels, entry level password. So how does this all fit together as a picture? Well, as I said, we try to fit them inside each other. Right? We try to have everyone know all this little public stuff, and then we kind of merged it down. Think about your first year teachers that showed up here. Most of them are driving what? Their first car. They've already answered a security question by pulling in your parking lot. They've driven their first car. Think about that. There's all these little things, think social engineering as we know it, all these little things that are easy to get out of somebody. I did a live this session at another event, another social event, and about half hour before, I walked around and was just talking to people. and asked a bunch of the general questions just kind of on the slide. Mainly the guys, hey, we talk about cars, and sure enough, oh yeah, my first car was this and this, this, and I put the stuff on the slide. I didn't say who said it, but I put it up there. And I said, so just so all of you know, when they asked what was your first car, you told me it was this color, it was this model, it was this make, it was this year. I've already covered at least 3 areas of one security question. You know, you bring up a pet, you bring up a school, I've got your mascot, I know what city, what hometown you were from. All that stuff becomes very, very easy to answer. And then there's also, I'm gonna tell you this now, if you start building this fake persona, there's that uncomfort level that people don't like. When you hesitate to answer a question, they get uncomfortable, which is fine. You have to get used to it, which is fine. But it's very interesting to see someone's response when you have to think for a second, what answer am I giving them? Do I really need to give them this answer? And is it really, really me? Is it private information? Or is it part of my persona? I literally have people I've worked with in the industry for 10 years that don't know my real birthday. They don't need to know my real birthday. And I only do that because it just doesn't need to be more widespread, because what happens when they know? They start promoting it on your social media. Happy birthday, right? They do. I know it's not your, I know it's your real birthday, even though you don't tell anybody. I had that post on Facebook. I know it's your real birthday. I deleted the post and then, said, listen.
It was your angriest birthday ever.
Yeah, you need to understand the way this life works. You shall not celebrate my birthday except when it's fake. And then you can bring cakes and goodies and anything you want to do. And they're like, I don't get you. I'm like, well, when you lose another credit card, you let me know. So we try to pull this information apart. Some of you do, right? You say, yeah, I'm gonna pull over here. Well, this is where that data really sits. This is where the data really sits. But we don't want it here. So we have our public, we have our personal, we have our private. And that private data is actually in there because we share so much of it, right? We share all this thing. Like a lot of you right now on Facebook have probably shared your real birthday. Probably have. You're sitting here going, yeah, I have. For what reason? Don't know. Don't have any idea. How many of you set where you went to school, which is one of their questions?
Nope.
Yeah. Got one no, a bunch of yeses. So you see, but people are like, yeah, did that. Things that you like, and if you look at my page, I don't think I've really liked a lot of stuff. I don't want to associate myself with teams or with, it's just one of those images. This is what we need to do. Suck that area out and make it all separate, right? Meaning, we don't want to share anything in that public and personal space that's private. So what are the steps you probably have to do? Well, you have to build a fake persona, right? This is hilariously, we built a fun site because of it. It was just for fun. What we started doing was building fake questions. You could go in and say, I need to be male or female, click a button, and it would give you like fake mother's maiden name, school, pet. We just did it for fun, and it was interesting the traffic it got when we put it up. And then someone said, well, can you like store that so I can come back to it because I can't remember it? And we said, well, that defeats the purpose of us knowing it. If we keep the information too, it kind of defeats, no, you get it once and then we don't even store it, it's just on the screen, print it, do something, I don't care. But the goal for this is, what you're gonna have to do is steps to start pulling things apart. So what are you gonna need? You're gonna need an email address, like we said. New, clean, no one knows if it's you and whoever significant, whatever, that you need financially, healthcare, anything you need someone to know about, that's who it's shared with, possibly an attorney, things like that, to get into. Mainly when you start doing, what do they call it? Not just wills, but also transfer of all the digital stuff now, right? If you want to transfer that to somebody else. So you need an email address. A phone number that you haven't shared anywhere, that's tough to do, so you kind of do it in reverse. All of you can get a free Google number. Just go to google.com/voice. Your Google account, if you're logged in, will pop up and say, oh, do you want a Google number? It will give you a free phone number. You can use it on all the stuff, like social registrations, whatever. It can send text to your phone. They'll never know your real phone number, it just forwards it, right? They can call it, and you can forward it to your phone or have it go to voicemail and never hear from them again. I use it for all the stuff I register where they might market to me, or someone can get that information. Google does it as a service, and it's free. I mean, you have a Google Voice, don't you, too? Yeah. So everyone has, do you have one? No? You just don't even have a phone? You still have a pager, don't you? Network
Don't tell anyone.
guys, security and network guys are all the same. We just have pagers. We don't have phones. So that's another one we need. And then from there, you have to build your persona. Right? You really have to look at what you've shared publicly. A lot of you will probably strip your birthday out of Facebook or change it. You can change it. That's one of the fields that will let you change. But think about the other ones you use security-wise on banking, credit cards, and finance. And this is where you have to make a choice. And this gets interesting. If you're like me, I'm on so many social sites, it would have been easier to change banking, credit card, finance, and put like fake stuff there for 5 sites. But if you're like most people, it's easier to have your real stuff on those and then change the security questions out on all the social sites that you join or part of, frequent loyalty cards, anything that you share publicly, right? Because keep in mind, when you give them that information and you fill out that form at that counter for Kohl's or wherever, who are you giving the information to? Think carefully for a minute. A whole bunch of people up front. I'm not talking hackers. I'm talking the person at the counter who then enters some info, that then sends it to their processing, who then looks at it and sends it to some big processing center, who then stores it and puts a paper copy down. Then they enter it to a system that gets processed that people see. That information is then aggregated out. It's huge, the size of it that it goes to, right? The same with the things that you share out there on those networks, right? We're talking about pets and everything else. So for this first one, the good part is we get to do questions now for the first half. How did we do? Right at, yep, half hour. Questions on the first half. Does anybody at least feel slightly afraid at this point of they may have screwed something up? Honestly, I mean, I did. When I first started looking at my own stuff, I went, oh, I've screwed up. I really did. And I had people, like I said, that have been doing this for years that realized, as much as they preach about passwords and security pieces, they realized that, oh wow, I really did create a hole for myself back into things that would be detrimental to me and my family, right? Banking, healthcare, finance, things like that, yeah.
When you're paying bills, if you pay your bills electronically,
Uh-huh.
do you pay through your bank or do you avoid like going directly to the source, like your utilities and stuff like that?
I use both depending on what it is. I try to go through the bank if they offer it to them direct, because most of the time with banks, and you think about it, you say send a check, you never really send a check anymore. It's all
Right, it's
ACH.
all electronic.
It's digital and it's in within a day if you want it to be.
Right.
You think it's gonna be days, and you know that money comes, it's pronto. They're good now. Some of the sites I go to, if it deals with the household, like AT&T, I'll go to their site, only
Okay.
because it's easier with them.
Right.
It's harder with the bank for some reason. And there's one other trusted site that I use called My Check Free. They have an agreement, and they use the back-end processing centers for the banks. So they use the secure back-end processing, and they don't really ask a lot of personal information. You just link some stuff together, and they pay for you, and it's usually free. The vendors end up paying for that, meaning Laclede Gas is on there and a bunch of others. They make you pay. But yeah, I try to use my bank for most everything, and let them send a check out. Or digital is what it is. It's all just digital, so it's a good question. Yeah. Credit card's the only one you go to directly most of the time, because you want to see the balances and do, credit card I'll go to that. But
So is it too late if with our banks and our
Mhm.
credit cards and that, so I've got one email address on file, if I change that email address, I'm going to the credit card site and changing my email there, or am I?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's already out there is what you're
Right.
saying. There's one question that they won't answer for you security-wise, which I often question myself, is how long do they store the old email address? But people coming in to get that info would only get the current data. I look at it that way, meaning, they're gonna get the current data. So that public address I use at all the sites, that's the current data. If I change it in the banking and stuff, then it should be totally separate.
It doesn't hurt to change it on
Yeah.
everything, but it's better to do it.
Well, I definitely want it on my personal stuff. I want to create a new account, and everything that's private, sorry, I said personal, private, banking, healthcare, finance, travel, credit cards, that's where I put that new silent address. And you'll notice, as long as you've opted out of marketing from the credit cards and the banks, that there's always a checkbox or a form or something you have to fill out. As long as you've opted out of sharing that data, I have that mail account, it doesn't get anything but monthly, like, your bill is due, thank you for paying. That's what I get. It's fantastic. And, oh, we've updated our credit card policy. And I look at it and you go in and you're like, this is the emptiest, it's sad, right, how empty it is. But then I go, this is so good. That means that isn't being shared. As soon as you see that first couple pieces of spam, you know you went wrong somewhere, right? That email address got used. And I would also suggest not using even ones that go back years and years and years that you've used before. Some of you wouldn't have done it, but like in the tech world, if we participated in a forum 10 years ago, all those forums are indexed now on Google. Those email addresses are there publicly to be found.
Still got my first email address.
Right, still got the first one. So that's why we create this new, put it out on the credit cards, put it on the finance, change the address, make sure that's where everything's funneled to. I have this account, and here's the bonus. If you're gonna use Google, turn on two-factor authentication for this new account. It's called two-factor authentication. When you're doing the setup, do you have two-factor on yours?
No.
No?
I don't do a lot with my Google account.
You don't do it with Google? I'm presuming most of you are going to use Gmail, or even Hotmail does it now. What it means is, when you go to log into that account for this secure one, I'm not saying to worry about the public and personal, I'm talking about this private one. When you go to log in, it will also send you like a text message you put in a code to the web. So that means they not only have to have your password, but they have to have your phone. Does that make sense?
How do you do that?
It's all in the setup of security. It's called two-factor authentication. So when you go in your settings for Gmail, when you create the new account, there'll be an area saying turn on two-factor authentication. You check it, and what it'll do for these, for banking and finance, anytime I want to access, I log in, and then it says, please enter the code for your, that we've sent you. And it sends me a code to text, and I have to type it in. So that means I not only have to know my password, or one password, whatever I'm using, I have to get the text. That means you have to have my phone and my password, which is another whole layer. And most sites offer it now, two-factor authentication. Even a lot of credit cards offer it now. You can't log in without them ringing your phone or your home phone and typing in a code, whatever it is, so you're provided another level of authentication. And I only do that for those 5 to 7 sites, not my everyday stuff. You could do it, I think, for Facebook now, too. I think they turned on two-factor, actually. I think they just did turn on two-factor. You could, that would drive me nuts, because I know a lot of you, right, sitting there with your iPads at night, watching shows on the iPad, Facebook, that would drive me nuts. But for banking, healthcare, finance, I turn on two-factor. And it's free, it's built in, there's no reason not to use it for those sites at all, mainly your credit cards and stuff.
Just a side note on the LastPass and the OnePass, one of the advantages to using a tool like that is it wrangles all of your accounts. So you don't have to think, do I have an account for that? It's in the list of accounts you have.
Right.
So it's one place to go for all of your sign up, you have an account for Schnucks, you have an account for Kohl's, you have a login at Southwest Airlines, because it's all there in the list. So you can keep them all straight.
Right.
Because then, I know last year when I was trying to make these changes, I didn't have to think, what other accounts do I have? What else do I need to change? What else do I need to look at? I just had all my accounts in LastPass already, so I just went down the list and kind of marked the ones that needed to be private, and marked the ones that needed to be personal, and.
Yep.
Because when you think about how many logins you have to how many sites, it's overwhelming. And I was really glad I had that list.
Yeah, that does help. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just thinking, I've done that on my own with an Excel spreadsheet. Is that an okay way to do it?
Question
Or
is,
is
where do you
that-
keep
You didn't
the
put it in your
spreadsheet?
Dropbox, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, God, no.
Just saying. I know people who have that in their Dropbox.
No.
You're a skillet,
It's
too.
on a standalone PC
At
on a,
home.
yeah.
If you use it to browse the web and stuff, I would say no. I wouldn't have it in an Excel, unencrypted file. And when I say encrypted, I don't mean just a password, an unencrypted file, because you can break Excel, that's easy to get around.
I actually write mine down in a little book that we keep at home for different passwords.
Just, store
I
it
did
separately.
that for a while, and then I'm just an Excel junkie, so.
It's good, but if anytime you access the internet and you have that, I wouldn't have it on that machine. If you have an old machine, or like you said, a book, or a separate machine that never connects to the internet, yeah. But if you connect it to anything,
So I should go back to my book.
Or print out your Excel and then delete it off your computer.
Well, and I've done that, but
Or-
then, I go in and change things periodically.
or import it all to LastPass or OnePassword and store it. That's an encrypted file. They hash it, encrypt it. It's a very encrypted file. So no one, if they got the file, they were, not going to break into it. That's one way to do it too. It's a good question, but yeah, I wouldn't have that on an Excel.
So I guess my thought is, LastPass, yes, I know it's encrypted, but it's somebody else has my
Yep,
stuff.
they're generating it. Some people have that fear, which is fine. Don't use it. It's one of those things you have to
That's why
weigh.
Daryl doesn't use it.
Yeah, it's just one of the things you have to weigh in on. Or here's what I do. You could, and I like this option too, and I brought this up a lot of times. I use OnePassword for the social stuff and everything else, but I keep my own set for just personal banking and finance. Once again, if they get into that, who cares? But I've got my own set that's not shared. So that's an option too. Mainly when you have lots of sites. Because you're only thinking mentally, I'm keeping track of 7 or 8, let's say. Well, for private,
Okay.
right, banking,
Oh,
credit
yeah,
card.
yeah.
Keeping track of 7 that I have to keep track of. All that stuff, now I don't have to worry about it. And if they get into it, oh, well, life sucks. So, it's a good question.
And it's one thing to keep a list of stuff, just the name of the companies that you're using for private.
Yep,
And then you'll remember those passwords for that. Just don't leave the passwords online
Right.
with that.
I've seen that. I've seen that one before, yeah. And I mean, some of you, I know some of the teachers in the schools here probably put sticky notes under a keyboard. You know, we've seen it. It gets, or they do. You're laughing because they do.
We just had one.
All
Right.
day.
Yeah.
Right, it happens.
Well, and not only that, but they're using not only the same password for their other sites, but the same email address.
And the same password.
So they're
for
using
the-
their
yeah.
work email addresses and possibly their work password for these other things. But, I mean, even in the new employee orientation, now we tell them, this is an email address we use for work. This isn't your email address you use for other things. You don't know all the people that have access
Well,
to
not
that
only that.
stuff. But, I mean, there's
Yeah.
years and years and years of staff that,
Yep.
that is their primary email address, is the one we assigned them.
Yep, they use it for everything. They don't know that district owns all that content. They don't own it, the district owns it, so. So we'll move through this one pretty easy because a lot of you, it's focuses some on teachers, but it's good info because some of you counselors and everything else to just see. Now we're talking about content, right? That was identity. Real quick, we'll talk about content. So you can still ask questions about the last one as we go, but this is pretty easy. We'll talk about the actual public identity, couple steps we call ACT that we wrote, and then we can do Q&A. All this stuff here is informational, which is good. I use a couple of case studies of recent things in the past couple of years that have happened that we talk about, and then we'll talk about where some of the stuff is stored. It's pretty straightforward. This is just content we're talking about, right? We've already beat up the identity. So what is the identity itself? The public identity. This is pretty much what it is. What you post, your pictures, your links, the text, who you're associated to, the videos you post, all this stuff that you put up there, right? Anything that's accessible to social. I don't know how often you go through your privacy settings on all the sites, and there's so many settings, and they change all the time. Facebook now had to build a tool that you can click on to check your settings because they got so complex they had to build a tool. Right? That's how difficult it got. When I share a post, is it public, or is it friends, or is it friends of friends? And is it friends that I tag? Well, is it people I've excluded? Well, what about a list? Do I have a group? Right? Can they reshare it? Well, of course. Anybody that could see it can copy it and reshare it. Right? There's no such thing as private. Doesn't exist. Snapchat. You guys have heard the students use a Snapchat. So Snapchat was what? Send a picture and it disappears, right? So what did they build? People built tools to grab the picture before it disappeared and save it to the phones. There's no such thing as the privacy. So case one, which I like for the teachers, a student insulted a teacher and they said that the school violated the right to free speech because they did it not on campus, on their own, even though they were talking about a teacher. Well, that's content, right? That's not identity stuff, that's content stuff. But they did it on their own personal page after hours, which is why the ACLU stepped in and said, you can't do a thing about it, right? Same went true now for teachers. They're getting charged, or I should say dismissed, right, internally, for posting things about students, by saying things about students. You guys saw the one about the girl with the wrappers in her hair, right? The teacher posted and took a picture of the girl's hair, which was the worst thing she could have done, and said, I can't believe her mom sent her with these, were they Jolly Ranchers or something, like tied up, whatever it was, in her hair, and posted on her Facebook page to her personal friends. Well, one of the parents was listed as a personal friend, who then saw it, of course, and then shared it and grabbed it and sent it, and then it went, so you get the idea. We're talking content, okay? What all these get you is there online privacy that exists? Well, I was on the committee that helped write one of the first social media policies that existed here in St. Louis, or actually almost in the nation for some of the schools. And we found there's no easy way to write a policy for someone in your position of what you do. There isn't a good way to write it. The best thing to say was, don't. Don't do it. Don't talk to them. So a teacher suspended, for her policy. She wrote, I'm teaching the most ghetto school in Charlotte. Well, that was on her personal page. It was not shared publicly when they, according to the privacy settings she had before with Facebook. It was not shared publicly, but it was seen by someone else and then shared it again. So does that mean that it was shared privately with friends and family and shouldn't have been treated as public? No, right? Same with the teacher that was on the summer leave that went to Italy on a trip with other people that were teachers and administrators, had one picture of a glass of wine and was terminated because it didn't meet the school's image. Well, there's other things probably behind that, but still, a picture that she posted on her own vacation on her own time was used at your level. Okay. So third one, this one's pretty good. I actually like this one. So, suck sites, right? I love it. They called it suck sites. So they talked about after hours, posted accusations of a teacher about, incompetence and everything else. Well, they filed a suit against him. Well, there's been no landmark decision yet. Meaning, your students' interaction right now with the social content is growing bigger and bigger, right? Not only are they able to kind of say what they want, but they're also able to actually see more of the content. A lot of the teachers and administrators and staff are getting friends with parents, and that means you're sharing and getting connected on these social networks. So going back to our previous thing, we're giving them too much private data, first of all, right? Because if they're a friend on Facebook, they can see your birthday, most of you, and all that other stuff. They don't need to. But now we're getting into content where are there limits to being allowed to talk about people? And that's where a lot of the schools are fighting this battle right now is what is content you can control for students versus free speech? What is content that you control of teachers and administrators and staff versus their free speech, right? So flip it for a different example, college referee, college soccer referee goes to a new college, travels, takes a picture of the campus, not even the sign of the school. I saw this whole case thing. Takes a picture of the campus, says this is one of the best looking campuses I've ever seen. Just in terms of beauty, the rolling hills and all this, just beautiful campus. They took the posting and had him blocked from that entire region saying he was being too partial to that school. It's like, I was saying the campus, I say no. Now you're going to be a one-sided ref. Now the region threw him out because he posted a picture of a campus saying how beautiful like the greenery was and all the other stuff, saying he was too friendly with the school. So think about how misconstrue the content. Gun picture, right? This is a great one. Whether or not you go hunting, whether or not you do whatever. Betsy, teacher in Wisconsin, right? She had photos of her with weapons on her Facebook profile, pointed one at the camera, and a concerned staff member found it, brought it to the administration, and had her terminated. Only because they felt threatened, right?
I think they fired the wrong person.
Possibly so. So, administratively, the point of the matter is that it was her own page. She was friends with somebody else at the school, other teachers and administrators. They saw the picture, and one of them felt threatened, which sounds like vendetta, right? If you say the words, they felt threatened, vendetta, but brought it up and said, here you go. You're in Wisconsin. I'm thinking most of those areas probably do a little hunting and stuff. It's not an uncommon thing, right? We're not saying, didn't say automatic weapons or anything. It just said, normal stuff. So this one I like a lot. This is more recent. This is just this past summer. You guys should be aware of this one by now. This is the opposite. You know about this one? Oh, this one's great. So
We hide from this.
So 14-year-old students. She apparently had a habit of letting them use her phone to call home. Well, no, it doesn't get that bad. It doesn't get that bad because she was usually there. The problem is it had a PIN number, and she had a lock on it. It had a PIN number. Well, that means she'd tell the kids here, so you can, oh yeah, it's whatever, call. So they could call parents. She was being very nice to some of the students, saying call. Well, she left the room, and some of the ruder students decided to get into her phone and poke around and do stuff. Well, naked pictures of her. They shared it, right, to all the social sites. So she got terminated. Well, they wanted, they're serving the school board, they want to press charges against the teens to swipe the picture. This one gets so much better because big downfall, she transfers to another school did it to her too. Same thing happened to her at the second school. Students, right, was why? The students know each other and she hadn't changed her PIN number to her phone. So they told them, hey, this is her PIN, try it. And they tried it, same thing, pictures, shared them again. So now she's gone from the school, right? But it's the opposite. This was her personal phone, right, that she was using, her personal data, right, not even considered private at this point, personal phone, personal data that she had done, giving a service kind of to those kids, which in a way is nice that they didn't have that ability, the area she lives, right? And this is her. She was on the news. So she says they hacked in, took the naked photos that are on there and sent them out, right? So what she's saying is they hacked into her phone. Well, the students are saying, well, a couple of them said, yeah, we did it, but she gave us her PIN because we used her phone to make calls and we knew her PIN number, and she left the room. Oh, mea culpa, she left the room and we got into her phone. So she was there, what was it? Accessed her phone during a business club meeting at the middle school in Savannah, Georgia. Okay? So now you've got the opposite where we have students that know that this content exists on staff and administration, computers, laptops, phones, tablets, phablets, as we like to call them, right? The phone things you got to hold up this big, the notes and the right? They're like giant, they're almost like iPads to your face. Yeah, like that. right? You get luggage you carry around your phone now.
Hey, I love this thing. I'm taking notes on it.
Right, well, I'm saying it's great, you just don't make calls on it probably a lot, do you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
use speaker.
She walks around like this. So the idea is that they know you keep that content on there, though. The kids know what you're doing with it. So now you have the opposite is, what about my content that's out there? So we talk about ways that you can verify some of your stuff. So this is the approach we built for a lot of the teachers, administrators. One, assess who you are, meaning based upon your role and what you do, what do you have that's out there in terms of content? Photos, pictures, videos, blog postings, commentary on websites that could be detrimental to what you do. Right? First, just assess who you are. I'm very cautious about things that I post. I am. I post on hundreds of sites. I own my name on over 300 sites. Right? I use the same name online for everything. I own my name on over 300 sites, but I'm very conscious about what gets posted. Right? I just know. And I never post anything edgy that I know may be controversial, even on Facebook and stuff. I just don't do it. Why? Is because this is what I do, right? I may have my own opinion on something. A lot of times I don't even post my opinion on stuff. I just stay out of it. It's just easier that way. Now, if you're having a one-on-one conversation, right, over lovely baked goods, right? I may suppose that I haven't seen yet, that I haven't seen these baked goods, supposed, but you know, that's different. But when I get out to the things that could be misconstrued, taken out of context, or even copied, then I get into that whole assessment. So assess who you are online, right? The next part you want to look at is claiming your identity. What that means is on all these sites, you want to make sure go and clean up and also claim who you are across the sites. If you have a very strong presence on a few sites using the same online name, some of you use the same name on across the sites, you know, it could be, you know, awesome admin one, whatever it is, make sure you own that across numerous sites. That's your identity. That's who you are. So the most popular sites, you probably have the same name on probably 3 or 4 of the same sites, I'd imagine. Right. He owns his identity across those. I know you do. She uses the same identity name on the sites. I may not use the site, but I know that it's my account, so no one could impersonate matching exactly who I was. Does that make sense?
So you're saying that it's a good idea to have the same identity?
To have the same identity name on the sites, yeah, it also is easy, right? So it's very simple that way.
Like that display name or, you
Yep.
know.
And that way, even if I don't post on that site, I own that identity. I know it's me. So there's no misconstrued. I don't have to worry about finding someone saying, no, that's not my account. They'll be like, no, it's not me. You know, I own that account, so I know it's not me. It's easy that way. It can be a lot of work to get the accounts registered on some of the sites, but it's just interesting to see that you own your own identity across. So a good way to look, after you start testing stuff, all the security, is to do a simple search on, it's a good one. Oh, I have one slide first. I'm skipping a slide ahead on before you do the search. This is an important slide. So think about this. This is you and everybody you're connected to, right? Definitely family, definitely some friends, maybe some coworkers because they're also your friends. The school, maybe you say you work at the school in your profile somewhere. Tons of people did that. I searched for this middle school. It's amazing that people said they either attended here or worked here. Thousands, which means that previous students as well as current, which thousands of people show up as part of that community, right? Students, where you went to school at college, a lot of you still communicate with college friends. So you've associated yourself. The problem is all these secondary circles have tertiary circles because they have friends and family, right? That may not know you or whatever, but they're associated with. And then they have friends and family and coworkers, and it just goes on from there. So remember that one time you post somewhere is really being pushed out, aggregated across numerous, right? It's just out there. It doesn't matter who you think it's limited to. Think on Facebook. One of the most popular things they show now in your stream is what? So one thing that you should be noticing that they're always showing down your stream.
Who likes what?
Not just who likes what, visual. Movies, videos, pictures, right? Think about your stream. It's more and more visual because it's engaging. It keeps you going. So imagine you posted a picture like the people in Wisconsin with you with a bunch of rifles, right? Well, that's going to be the thing that this big first circle ring is going to see first on their stream of Facebook now because that's what they get the most engagement on. Likes and clicks and shares and reshares and funny videos. So picture the growth of that, right? So it's bringing that content to the front. So the other part I like about owning my identity everywhere you asked is that it's portable. Meaning I know it's me across every site, so I can port my content everywhere and know that it's safe and secure and it's mine. So whatever content I have, I'm confident I could share it across any of the sites and not worry about fallout from all those circles. Does that make sense? I know exactly what's going out there. Thought we locked you out for a minute. We did, didn't we? Yeah, use your keys.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine.
You got a page.
Got a page?
Yeah.
You got a page? Your pager went off? So when you start claiming your identity, all of you should have by now Googled yourself. You're going to be surprised with the info. If you've never done it, just do it. You may have to put your city if you have a very common name, but Google yourself. If you put my name now, this is a few years old. This is in the hundreds of thousands. Why? I've aggregated my name everywhere. I know it's my content, my name. So if you put in that, the first thing that comes up is actually my page, right? The channel page. Google has it right. But from there, it's all the sites. You'll see the Flickrs, you'll see the Facebooks, you'll see LinkedIn, you'll see, it's all of them. Everything you can imagine, all right? So I own my identity there. You have a Google profile. If you put in your name, you have a Google profile. If you have a Google account, a Gmail account, you have a Google profile. You should make sure you know what's showing up with the profile, and you should know other people that have your same name around you what it shows. You don't want to be misconstrued and confused. Because the first place everybody goes is Google, right? That's where they go. Then they go where? After Google, what's the next place they go? Facebook. What they're looking for you and info about you, Google and Facebook. Google is everything the world knows about you publicly. Facebook is everything that you've accidentally shared publicly about you. Right? That you put on Facebook thinking it was marked private. Which is why they built the tool that you can now go in and check everything. Google allows you to claim your identity. Right? You can actually go in and claim your identity. So I know every link, every content, everything is me. Okay? Just an idea. You don't have to put anything out there really, but you know it yourself. The idea is you know what content Google has on you as well, and not only that, you can also check and see what Facebook has. So if you get a name or you choose a name, the next slide won't apply to a lot of you, but there's actual sites like Username Check that you could put in the username you use on most sites, and it'll run through like 100 of the top sites and show you which ones are in use. It's interesting to see if a name you've chosen on 6 of the sites that you use for Facebook or for pictures on Flickr, whatever it is, well, wow, I didn't know someone else owned that same name on Yahoo. Well, what have they been posting if someone's going to confuse them with me? It's a good way just to see. You don't want anyone to be confused with who you are as your identity, right? Mainly content-wise. Okay? And you'll find things you forgot about. Like he said, an email address from 10 years ago.
I still use it.
But just be like, wow, it's still out there. It's just amazing the stuff that's still out there floating around. Another one is noam.com. These are just sites that let you find out if other people have your name or identity out there, and if there's anything bad, you have to look at the sites and go through manually, but it just gives you an idea of content that could be confused with yourself. I'm going to skip the next one because none of you will use it. It's way beyond the technical. It's Claim ID. It's Open ID stuff. This is a way to have a single ID that logs into hundreds of sites, and don't even worry about it. It's way beyond what you guys need to do. So registering and holding accounts. This is what I was talking about. I register and make sure it's my name on the account, even if I don't use it, then I know. Mainly if it's a large site, right? YouTube, I have the account. Well, I use it, but even if you guys don't, YouTube's a good place too. It's the second largest search engine there is. The second largest. Google, then YouTube. That's where all your kids spend their time. You know they do here. They try, right? They're on their phones. They're watching videos. They're sharing videos. It's where people search for stuff. They're sharing videos of stuff that goes on in the school. If you go out here and search for your own schools, you will find videos from the schools. So think about that. You could be in a video that's out there, right? There's teachers they probably caught sleeping. I mean, it happens. It's at all the schools. But that kind of stuff happens, and the students within 2 clicks, it's online, and it's there for the world to see, right? And you've seen that. You've seen that in effect. That's kind of funny to me on some of those. So you're like, the teacher's like, I've never done that. What about this? Except that day. That day I did that. Sorry about that. So what's the policy here? Don't know. Doesn't matter. It's too much broad interpretation. No matter what your district may have drafted or written, it's very broad. It's because they have a hard time enforcing not only what you should post, but what the students do. So what you have to do is self-limit, right? And self-control. We've already talked about eliminating all my private stuff so it's not out there for them to find. Now we have to talk about the content. So you have to isolate that part of it. As much as you hope something like the school would have a great policy with great enforcement, you've seen in the other cases, as soon as the student says, well, I wasn't on school property, the school network, or school time, free speech. What are you going to do, right? As long as it's not hate stuff, which they get on about that, right? As long as there's nothing threatening about it, but just saying someone was incompetent or bad or whatever. You guys think about Yelp. How many of you use Yelp? Even to look up stuff. Yeah? You want to find a good place to eat, use Yelp. You've seen some of the reviews. Some are awesome and glowing. Go to this restaurant, eat there. And then other ones, don't ever eat there, it was the worst food ever. Free speech. There's nothing hateful or whatever, they're giving opinions. So that's part of the problem what they're having with these social network policies at schools. Right? So here's one of them, and I really like this opinion, and this is something in my best practices for all of you too. The Alpine School District. They said they're writing into their policy, teachers, administrators, and staff should have limited interaction, right, with the students on the social networks. Far too many of you, not just you per se, but as the district, have interaction with the students across the social sites. Think about the younger teachers that you have that are 20-something coming in. Facebook's a way of life to them. 17, 8-year-old students, or they know their older brothers or whatever, they have that connectivity on the social network. Oh, I went to school with your older brother, and they have that interaction. I have kids and I basically forbid them, they're older now, which is great, forbid them. I was like, no, you will not connect to a teacher, and a teacher will not connect to you. It doesn't work that way. Well, the teacher wants our cell phone numbers to let us know about practices after school if we're going to be canceled or delayed, right? Because one of them did track. I said, well, that's great. He needs to pay for the $5 a month service that he sends a text to one number that you all subscribe to. So never is there a personal connection, and never would that you know his number or he know your number, right? This isolation step. I understand funding, and we can talk about funny money stuff for days about who pays for it. The point is that the connectivity point is limited. Out here in St. Charles, Gina was looking around. She's known through a lot of the sites. She couldn't find anything, so they started a wiki for all schools to participate in to start writing policies, and that still exists. It's an open wiki. So if you just search for the social media in St. Charles, the school network policies, you'll find out. So there's actually a wiki on the topic that's available. Once again, no definitive answers, but a wiki. And the last part, this is a great one. This is a while ago, but after a teacher and a student got involved, court records showed that they were able to pull those accounts because she was underage, right? It was a minor situation. So once again, you have that teacher, school administrator, staff interaction with students that should never occur. And the last part, which is hard to read because of where you're sitting and everything else, for Madison, they do not have policies banning specific, but they restrict and they will look at things in the future. Well, the future was 7 years ago. It was 7 years ago when all this started, and we're still debating what those policies should be in the schools. So I give it to you guys back to say you need to police your own content and who you connect to. And some of you may need to look back and say, oh wow, oh yeah, I connect to this teacher, and oh, I connected their son at one point. Well, but actually he's a student. Even though they're a friend of mine, they're a student, right? And there has to be that delineating factor. It just has to exist right now, mainly in this world of the academics and incidents with teachers and students, and you're seeing this all the time, right? Inappropriate behavior stuff. You're seeing it all the time. So one way you can get around until your policy's done, you definitely need to say that any content you post publicly isn't part of your school district, right? That way you're saying anything you post on a forum or anything public that may be on edgy, I'm not saying your Facebook necessarily, but you need to let people know on public stuff that it's not the school district's, they're not their ownership. And then anything internally, this is where you should work with the kids. And I gave examples, and you may not use them, but that's the only place that the teachers and you guys should be interacting, because then it's school-owned property, school-owned software or licensed to use, and it means it's monitored, right? Text messaging, all that stuff should never be with them, ever. What else do we have as a policy? Never friend them outside on the social networks. Just don't do it. Like I said, I didn't allow it one way, and I didn't appreciate it when they asked, and I was the one to bring it up. Other parents are like, yeah, great, give them the number. Like, you're crazy, right? No matter how much we like this teacher, coach, staff, you're crazy. Only because we don't know, right? Because in today's world, you just don't know, so why take the chance? Doesn't make any sense. Never text the students directly. Text the parent. Why do we have to text the student? Text the parent, right? I know certain districts reaching parents is harder than the kids half the time, but I understand that. External instant messaging is the same thing. Facebook instant messaging. Don't go around the security of the district. That's a way to get yourself in trouble, because then you get looked at, and then people like him with pagers start looking at you, because that's their job, right? And I know we like to stream music and stream content at work and do all that stuff, but get an unlimited data plan and do it on your phone, or get a hotspot, but stay off the school networks with it, right? It just makes your job easier. Makes their job easier, it makes your job easier, because then you're protecting yourself. It's about protecting yourself, it's not them. And then, if you're gonna do anything out there on any of them, and you need to have a Facebook page because you're a teacher, or you want to put up something for school, make sure it's public, that everybody's allowed, that there's no restrictions, there's no private conversations, there's no private chat services, it's just a publishing post, like WordPress or a blog post, something where you're just publishing content. For your teachers, syllabuses, homework, if it's not a school licensed site due to funding, they can publish it publicly, just make sure there's nothing available for private communication, all right? And if you want to know something about your back-end identities, I would, just a couple quick slides. People, this will scare you. It combines your public and social identities. It shows you what everything pretty much can be found about you out there. It'll bring up court records, land ownership, social accounts. It merges them all into one page for you and shows you stuff about you. Yeah, I don't like that one. It's scary. Spokeo is no longer free. This was free when I did this last. But this one aggregates everything. It's now a premium service. People have to pay for it, but they're probably one of the strongest engines of back-end data about people across social networks. Meaning they find you on all the social networks and present it as a paid service. So people could pay to say, give me everything you have socially about a person that you have access to. Right? And the service has limited access based on your privacy, but it knows things you didn't mark properly for privacy and pulls that data. So this is now a paid service.
How much does that cost to use?
Few bucks for one run,
Really?
or unlimited monthly for a fee. Yeah. A single run is a few bucks.
I used to look up the new employees on it when it was free.
Yep. It just gives you an idea.
Just mainly to put slides up to show them how easy their stuff was from college to locate. I mean, it was one click and I had their history.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. It's that easy now. So they got smart. They did it as a free service, but they weren't monetizing. I actually interviewed their owners years ago, and they did it as a free service. They wanted to build this aggregated site. So actually they made it so you could go to one place to see all your friends' info and hang out and, aggregate all their sites. But then they realized, well, this content's gold money. It's gold. So they made a paid site. They started making money because they weren't making money before that. Facebook, they've now built a tool for you to go in and see everything. Now, one key area I want you to look at is applications and websites. Those are apps, be it games or other things, that you've allowed access to your Facebook data. Those are third-party tools and sites that you've given access by clicking that button that says, okay, authorize. It could be Candy Crush. It could be, I don't know, all those little dragon eggs and whatever those games are that you all play, right? If you play any of them, Farmville and all that, Cityville, you've given information to them that you put in your Facebook profile. Guess what? You've probably put true private information in there, which means they have it. So once again, you've shared private data with someone you didn't want to by clicking that button. IBM had this big thing just a couple weeks ago, and I was reading they wanted us to participate. And I was clicking it, and I said, wait a minute. And I questioned why that service needed all this data. Their answer was, well, that's the minimum limit that you can get when you use a third-party app with the service. We're not really using any of that data. I'm like, yeah, but you have it. They're like, well, yeah, because it's given to us by Facebook when you click that button. Guys get the idea? That data gets shared very easily.
Can I bring up something about Facebook?
Please.
Facebook app on your phone, don't install it. As soon as you do, it has access to all your phone records and everything you have on your phone also. You agree to it when you click OK.
So what do you use? I'll tell what to use.
I use the web.
You use the web. The mobile web of Facebook is cool. So through the browser on the phone, it's m.facebook.com. It's the mobile interface. It's everything you need. I don't run the app.
And the big fuss was about the Messenger app, but in fact, the permissions are the exact same
Yep.
for the Messenger app as you've already given to the Facebook app.
Yep.
So everyone raised this up in arms about security, but they'd already okayed it on everyone who has it on their phone.
Yeah.
Or their iPad or wherever.
It's pretty bad. But it just gives the contacts to, it's everything. You want camera access,
Yep.
microphone, even though it's in quote, access.
Your
once you click
location.
it, your location is big. There's an area in there of apps that you've authorized, and you can go in and see, and there'll be a list of every app that you've got access to your Facebook account. If you don't know what they are, click the X. If you need them again, you just reauthorize them later if you need them. But the idea is, look at the list, and you'll be surprised at the number of things over time you've just clicked and said, oh yeah, sure. That's your data, so it's under your privacy. All right? And then there's a whole bunch of other things that can post stuff, and these are some older ones, but the idea is that all these apps have different rights. Read stuff, get data, post things on your timeline, everything else you need. So, Q&A, we did it. We got 15 like we promised, 15 minutes. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I'm actually embarrassed to ask it, I'm going to.
No, don't be embarrassed. Someone else has done it, they just want
We're
to
all
ask.
there.
Yeah, well, this is probably really bad. I can go to Kohl's
Mhm.
and I can be looking up a waffle maker. And then the next thing you know, I'll go to Facebook and it'll show on the side that I looked at that
Yep.
waffle maker.
That's
What
everybody.
places is that?
It's cookies.
Every-
Cookies, what they call cookies.
Okay?
So it's-
I need to make myself cookieless?
No,
No.
you won't ever really be able
That's
to.
attached to the website you're looking at.
Then you'll never find the right waffle maker.
Well, actually, I did find the right waffle maker, but I didn't like the fact that they popped it up and said, hey.
Yeah.
this is- and I
If
was
you did
like,
a search for it, it'll pop up, because it's data, and it uses an algorithm to find it, to put that out there. If it could have been on Google or Yahoo, Yahoo's good for that,
Amazon.
or
So if you
Amazon,
used, if you were on
Mhm.
Google Chrome, when you
I
searched
tried
at Kohl's,
Safari.
either one, and if
Doesn't
you then went on Safari to the next place,
No,
it's
please
go,
Safari
thank
that
you.
says,
No, thank you,
here's
please go.
what she just searched.
Oh,
It's not the,
you're
no,
kidding.
the
Okay.
browser says, by the way, Robin came from Kohl's where she searched for for a waffle maker,
I'm on
and
the ad.
Facebook says, hey, waffle makers.
So
Now-
I didn't do anything wrong?
No,
No,
no.
you did nothing wrong now.
That's just target marketing.
There's a couple cool things you can do to help limit it.
Okay.
That's easy. One, make sure you don't sign into Google before you search for something. Just use the standard Google page. Don't sign in. Before you even do that, skip one step, launch their incognito page. So in the toolbar, it says launch an incognito window or page. What that does is bring up a single page that's considered anonymous mode. So if you don't log into Google first and it bring up this page, you're able to do things. It doesn't store the cookies. It doesn't remember the history of where you browsed. It's what the students use all the time, is incognito pages.
Or private browsing.
Private browsing
So
and
if I've
IE.
been on Google before maybe I go to something else,
It's
say I
too
went
late.
there, can I hit the cookie, delete the cookie?
You can delete all the cookies on your system, yeah. That's built into both any browser. I have
You
it.
have to do that regularly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's in any browser in the settings, usually under security or privacy, the ability to delete all cookies and track records and stuff like that.
Thank you.
The other thing you can do is use a different search engine. I use DuckDuckGo.
That's a good
DuckDuckGo is
one,
cool,
yeah.
no
It
ads.
just doesn't save things you search for.
Yeah.
What is it, Duck?
It's called
It's DuckDuckGo,
DuckDuckGo.
they built it as an engine that's adless and,
DCK or
Mhm,
DUC?
like Duck Duck Goose, only DuckDuckGo. I mean, it's just, it just, whenever you search for things, it just doesn't store that.
Okay, thanks, Katie.
yeah. That's incognito, so I say the word incognito is Chrome, private browsing is Safari. It's all the same thing. It brings up a window that doesn't store data. And so a lot of people use that to log into credit cards on a machine that is not yours, things like that you can do. So if you're ever going to use someone else's machine, you launch the browser and always in the menu somewhere is launch either private browsing or incognito. It'll launch a new window. And that's where you do your work in, and when you close it, there's no history. They don't know where you went, they don't know the cookie unless they're tracking keystrokes, but it basically hides it from the browser.
Thank you.
Yeah, students use that a lot, kids use it a lot, your grandkids, your family, your sons, your nieces, your nephews, they're not dumb, right? I caught one of my kids' friends telling her, I heard over her saying, oh, this is back in the day of Firefox, and said that they had that hidden window back then and said, oh no, you just need to use the Firefox and use their new hidden. I was like, yeah, try it, through my router. I yelled it from the other room. I said, try it, right? I already know that trick. You forgot, you need to tell who your dad is. So, but they're way ahead of what we do, right? They're transferring stuff in your rooms across each other now with Bluetooth. Because you can't track that, you can't see it. It's a point-to-point from phone-to-phone communication. You can't stop it. There's no way he can stop it on the security side. You know, right now I could transfer a file to Katie, and none of you would even know what was going on. That happens in the classrooms unless you don't have cell phones allowed, which I haven't seen a school that can enforce it 100%, right? You may say, a teacher may say it. Last questions? Yes?
Let's say I've been doing everything wrong and all my info's out there,
Yeah.
and I realize that now. What are my top 3 takeaways that I really need to just go home and do?
Good question. One, get your then you need to do it backwards, honestly. If you're that far gone. really,
That was me last year.
If you're that far gone, you're easier to change your 5 or 6 less than 10 sites that are banking and finance to a new email address. You'll have to leave your real birthday there, which is shared, and then start changing your birthday everywhere else somewhere, to a new one. You'll have to leave your social, which most sites never ask, and reset your security questions. That's probably the very first thing you can do.
Okay,
Change the email address that's used for those sites,
okay.
right? Change the birth date on the public sites,
Or just remove it.
or
I mean,
remove it. If it can be removed, remove it. If they mandate it, fake one. And then change the security questions on your private sites, banking, credit card, finance. Get those security questions renewed and refreshed and, don't match anything you've shared to the public world. Those are probably that's probably more than 3 overall, but.
And that takes a little while. I
It's
mean,
not a
it took me, just to do those 3 things, it probably took a full kind of month of every now and then trying to wrangle that to feel like I had my banking and finance stuff
Isolated.
better. And I still have other work to do, but I feel like, okay, I got the safe stuff safe. Now what do I have to do?
Right.
So should I make things up then for those security questions?
Or you could pick new ones you've never used anywhere or something like that. You just need to make sure that you've now isolated those systems. Whatever you do, if you can do it either way, you can go change all the public stuff, which may take longer depending how social you are.
That'd take way longer.
Right. Right. Well, that's one of the things, is one, age, hate to say it, right, age, and what you do socially is way beyond what some other ones do, but that's just the way it is nowadays. So you gotta pick up whichever is easier for you.
Okay.
The easiest thing to do on the banking and finance is get that email out of there first. Create a new one that's never been used anywhere, isolate it, it's only for banking and finance. I don't even have it on my phone, because my phone gets taken. Remember I said 2-factor plus I don't even have that email address on my phone. Like it doesn't sync and send, no. I only do it when I'm online, at home, or whatever, it's the time I do it.
How do you run your Amazon account, Katie, to pay for your,
You can do that different ways, yeah.
I have a special card linked on my stuff.
so you just use one card for your
I have a
Amazon?
Yeah.
card I just use on Amazon.
Yeah.
I do so much purchasing on Amazon that I don't generate a fake number every time. I just have one card that's Amazon only.
Okay, so
I
you
bought a
know
green-
that all your purchase on, so that you could do the one click.
Right, and it also
I
has
agree with that,
points
yeah.
that I can link back to Amazon and pay with. So you want to, you
Yeah.
can maximize your bonuses too.
Daryl does this a different way.
I use a green dot card, but it's got $5 on it until I need it, then I put money to it, then I spend it. It's just a credit card.
So Green Dot is at Walmart's and everywhere, and Walgreens, they sell them.
Yep.
It takes a few days to get it. like-
No, you can buy the card right there.
Yeah, but it's not activated, you need the real one, 5 to 7 days, business days. I
Right.
was just did it the other day. So you buy one, but once you put the money on and activate, it's only good for that money until you get the real card, then you can start using it.
Right.
So if
he
someone
uses-
did take it, they take $5 because
Right.
there's not this bank of money behind it.
Correct, or a limit, or a credit
Right.
limit, and it wouldn't affect your normal credit, because Green Dot isn't linked to your credit. And
No.
Amazon doesn't care about your credit anyway.
And green dot is if you forget your password, it's a pain to find it. It is.
Yeah.
They got a lot of security.
Yeah. All right, you had a question, yes?
Yeah, what about PayPal?
I use PayPal a lot.
Yeah.
I
They're
really do.
separated from eBay though.
Yeah, they're separated from eBay, but the idea is that all you're sharing is invoice across, and they're using a clearinghouse in the back end. So behind the scenes, PayPal is very secure as long as your password is secure and your setup stuff. But I consider that banking, right?
And I wouldn't link my checking account that I use every day
No.
to my PayPal account to pay for purchases.
No,
I don't.
They constantly want you to link your banking account and
Right.
banking account, but just have a dedicated account that you're using
Or
for
a
that, and
credit
it's
card, they'll
fine.
do
I
both.
use it all the
Just use a
time.
credit card.
Well, same thing. If you got a Green Dot, you could use that on all the sites and just transfer money into it as you need to. Or a side account at the bank that doesn't have anything but a few bucks that had a Visa card, because they're all free now.
Mhm.
There's different ways to do it that you could isolate your core stuff that you live on. If you're
PayPal
gonna be-
now has a credit
Yeah.
card, so to speak, account with them.
You could-
Unfortunately, I
yeah.
just opened it up. They give you, so much money, and then it's,
Give you $50 off if you do. There's people I know.
Yeah,
that-
Amazon does too.
Amazon does, and there's one guy I know that plays the game, he does mile cards, the frequent flyer mile cards. He plays the game of mile cards where he runs a website, Million Mile or whatever, never pays for flights ever anywhere because he opens all these cards, but I know he's using some fake data, not the guy in California, but he's bouncing around opening tons of credit cards all year, every year, using all these free miles and traveling, then he gets more miles. It's a game with him, but he's never used real data for them. He's built this identity for, opening and closing. The only thing real is social. So, there's different ways to play the game. The idea is you just don't want to put too much of that private data in where you don't have to. That's a great suggestion. The Green Dot one's a great suggestion. Is there a fee every time you load it, though?
Yeah, if you load less than $1,000, there is.
Yeah, it's a few bucks, a couple
Yeah,
bucks.
I like $5.
I think it's $3.
But it's great. I've never had an issue using it, and
And you could use it at stores like Target and everywhere else if you're going to shop.
I do it when I go Christmas shopping. That's what I do. So I don't take any money with me.
Preloads it, that's your fixed budget, and your credit card's never shared anywhere at those stores where they get hacked. There you go.
Tough luck.
Tough luck to them, because they'll get $5.
And the other big takeaway from this is just now you're aware. I mean, you're gonna think about these sites. Next time you're at Barnes and Noble and you sign up, you might use your dog's name as your fake persona, which I did and got mocked on Facebook for it.
Yes.
But now my dog gets lots of coupons for books that I can use all the time. So, I mean, that kind of stuff, now you're just gonna think, why do they need that? I mean, whenever they just ask you for all of these things all of the time,
Right.
your first reaction might now be, they don't need that, I'm gonna give them this instead.
Right, do I get any benefit from giving that piece of data to them? You're gonna go no, almost 100% of the time, unless it's banking, finance, something you need to get a loan, or that's different. But normal out there in the world and loyalty, what do they need that data for? Nothing.
Well, really, and the marketing's not a bad deal, it's just the crooks that
Yep.
take the
Right.
information.
Well,
You still want the coupon.
Marketing's
You want-
not a big deal, because I've
I
had the
want the
same thing
coupon.
that's happened with Robin, where I like a particular brand of shoes, and then whenever I go in to get something, it pops up the latest
Hey.
style of that brand of shoes. Well, that works for me,
We're
but.
glad you're here. Glad to see that.
I do like those shoes.
Yeah, so, I get that, so that part works, it's the crooks. that
Yeah, and what's
cause
behind it,
problems.
and it's just even, where they store their data too. You don't know where that stuff goes. You don't know what third parties have it, because the marketing firms use it to leverage, right? You've seen it. So it's good to isolate the data. So, anything else? We're 5 minutes early, which is awesome.
You
Yes,
wrote a
ma'am.
book, what's the name of the book?
It's gonna be social identity, it's the same thing. It's coming out soon, we're in the process. Social identity, same thing, public, personal, private.
I'll send you guys a link when it comes out.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
gonna
we'll get some free ones to give away. We might know the guy that wrote it.
It'll be baked, it'll cost you baked goods.
I'll start baking.
You had a question?
Get some
Hey,
books.
she had a real question.
You'll be inundated.
We got a couple bakers in our.
She had a real
Yeah.
question though. I saw her.
Well, I never like answering stuff out front anyway, so
Yeah,
I made
good.
a fake persona,
Oh, good for
but
you.
I don't remember what it is. And if I Google myself, it's not really me, so.
Right, so you can start building your own again and start claiming stuff. The problem is, if you don't stick with, I stick with the same one. It's become, you hate to say it, it's become, it's a permanent fixture of life for all those sites, but it all fits. It's not out of whack, you're not 21 on the sites. The idea is that I've built it out there. You may have to fix a few.
Let's tweak it.
Tweak it here and there, but the first step is what she asked. The first thing is start segregating out some of your private stuff. That's the easiest thing to do because there's so few sites. If you think about it. Easiest thing to do is register a new email, start using it only for the banking and finance, credit, stuff like that, healthcare, right, all those. So that's the only thing that ever gets to those accounts and touches those accounts. The moment you start seeing something, accessing it, or other data coming in, somewhere your data's been sold that you didn't know about, transferred, you put it somewhere accidentally, something's happened there. It's a good alert, and I use two-factor on that account. Meaning I can't even log into it unless I actually get the text, I use two-factor authentication. So, it's pretty easy to do, and I really stuck with, and it's hard, not associating it with my phone. You want to put all those emails, links, and, no, because if the phone goes up missing or the kids do the PIN, they've got access, so I don't even do it there. Because there's no need, you're thinking, middle of the day, do I really need to log in to check? No.
No, and I'm not, until I retire, I don't have Facebook. I don't have a home internet at home. I mean, I just do what I do.
What you need to do.
And if I want to go to the public library and use their computer, I can do that, or my kids, or whatever.
That's a great place for incognito mode at the library.
You have to use it there. If you go to the library, that incognito browser window is your friend, right? There's too many eyes watching over you. And, privacy screens, I love those too when you're trying, or use the library, I use privacy screens, so stuff like that.
If you have a passcode to get into your phone, is that sufficient to cover you if you, in your little notepad, that's where you put all your passwords?
No, probably not, because most of you right now, if you took your phone and you tilted an angle when it's on, the screen's off, you pretty much see the 4 digits you use, so I just need a few minutes of testing and trying, unless you have a swipe, which is even easier most of the time.
You could see the grease print.
Or if you plug it into a computer, you could probably pull that file off.
Or,
Trust me, I
It's
hack
even worse.
district phones a lot because people forget.
she's looking at her phone like,
No, I mean,
damn. She said, damn.
people will quit their job or
Yeah.
leave the district and not
Right,
give me their
she's up
PIN.
here wiping on her phone, she's rubbing it on her pants. But so even worse, go
I
watch.
might be able to hack
There's a
that.
quick video they made, and it's really even scarier. You know what FLIR is? It's
Yes.
the new iPhone case.
No, I thought they were like the camera.
Yeah, but they make an iPhone case. I interviewed the guys. I have the video up. So I interviewed them. They make an iPhone case now. They made it mainly for emergency, but the guys that took it made a video at the grocery store, and they did it as a test with their friend. They said, at some point, I'm gonna steal your PIN number. And the friend's like, what? He said, I'm gonna steal your PIN number. So what he did is, it's an iPhone case, and it's a camera, but it uses, its heat sensor. It's great. It's the same thing firefighters use.
There's an app that you can do that with.
Well, but this one actually has the camera that reads the thermal. It's built in, and it turns the thermal mode. So I can actually hold the room. Now, what's cool is he walked up, so basically, his friend used the card, and he walked up right behind him was a guy left, and he had the thing on, took a picture, and the keypad was hot on all 4 buttons and dimmer on the ones he hit first, right? It was cooling as it went. Metal keypads store the heat. So when he touched them, he went, and he had all 4 PIN numbers in order based upon the heat sensitivity on the keypad, and goes, there's your PIN number.
I saw that on Facebook.
There you go. So the guys that made the camera case, I interviewed at CES this past year, and it was amazing. Just the technology was amazing, but it shows you they walked up. So now they're saying the plastic keys or things like that, or the new phones
Rest
where you
your
can
fingers
tap.
on the key.
Rest your whole hand when you're done with your pin. Just rest your hand for a second and walk away, because then it leaves all the heat. You're thinking it's crazy, but he just walked up behind his friend. He's like, "Got your pin." The friend was like, "What?"
Once I put my number in and hit OK, I punch a few other numbers.
I never use my pin anymore.